Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the US Tesol Webinars 2020, the last session. My name is Quốc and I'll be your host today. Before we start, can I check if all of you can hear me clearly? So if yes, please type yes in the chat box. It's raining hard here, so you may hear some background noise. Okay, this free webinar series is held by VUS with the participation of ELT experts and invited speakers from well-known publishers such as Oxford University Press, Macmillan Education, Cambridge Assessment English, National Geographic Learning, Publications, and eFuture. We hope to bring you the most updated and practical teaching methods and techniques so that you can teach your class more effectively. So thank you for joining us in today's webinar, Fun and Easy Grammar with Spiral Syllabus, presented by Ms. Sue Kim from eFuture. Before we start, please be informed that we will have the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Also, during that time, I'll send you the links for you to complete a survey and to download your certificate of participation. Now let me introduce to you Ms. Sue Kim. Over to you, Ms. Sue.
Can you see me, everyone?
Not yet. You turn on your camera.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I think you will have to, yes, so I'm starting my video now. So hopefully you can see me in a minute.
We can see you now.
Okay. Okay, that's good. So I can see myself now too. Okay, nice to see you, everyone. Nice to see you. Okay, and thank you for joining this webinar. Thank you, Mr. Kwok, for introducing me. And welcome to my webinar, everyone. So let's get started. Okay, so Mr. Kwok, are you going to close this window so that I can share my screen?
You can just share your screen and we'll be on top of this.
All right, okay. Okay, now can you see my slide, everyone? Yes? Okay, that's good. So now let's get started. I was at BUS Tesol in 2018. That was 2 years ago. So hello, Vietnam, and hello, teachers. Hello, everybody. Okay, so only you, somebody says only you. So you can you see both my face and the slide? No slide? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so you can see me and you can see the slide. You can see both. Okay, that's good. Okay, that's good. Okay, that's very good. So now we are all set. Okay, so we go to Vietnam every year to attend BUS Tesol, but this year we cannot go. That's why we are having this webinar. And when we go to BUS Tesol, we usually do seminars and we have an exhibition desk. So teachers can come and look at our books and everything. So maybe next year, maybe we can go there and meet you in person. Okay, so hopefully, fingers crossed. Okay. today I'll be talking about grammar. Okay, why do we learn grammar? There are many reasons, right? So why do we learn grammar? Why do you teach grammar? Maybe we want to use English correctly. That's why we learn English grammar, or to learn English more efficiently, to correct errors sometimes, or to pass the exam, right? You have to pass the English exam and you have to go to university, or, you know, or you want to improve your fluency, or you want to communicate effectively, right? There are many reasons, right? Let's look at this picture. Can you look at this picture? What does it say? Let's eat grandma. It's scary, isn't it? Let's eat grandma. Scary, right? We don't want to do that, right? What we want to say is, let's eat grandma. Okay, that's what we want to say. Okay. Oh, you cannot see the picture? Here, this one. Here's a picture of our grandma. Oh, yeah. Okay, so grammar is the foundation for communication. And without good grammar, clear communication is impossible, as we can see here, right? And with correct grammar, it's easier to understand. Okay, so do you all agree? Grammar is the foundation for communication. Oh, you like this slide? Yes, let's not eat grammar, right? Let's eat together with grammar. Okay? So, grammar. When you think of grammar, what comes into your head when you hear the word grammar? Let's think about your student. Okay, so this is your student. Do they say things like this? Grammar is difficult. It's boring. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. I don't understand. I don't remember. Do you hear this from your students? Yes? Yeah. Usually students don't like grammar. They find grammar very difficult and grammar lessons boring, right? All the time. Oh, okay, all the time. Right, and this student says, help. Okay, now let's look at this teacher, right? The teacher is thinking, right? How can we make grammar lessons more effective? How can we make it fun and easy? How can I help my students understand grammar and remember the grammar points, right? Yes, it's hard for them to remember, yes. So do you sometimes think about, these questions? I'm sure you all do, right? We always want to make our lessons more effective. We always want to make our lessons fun and easy for our children, right? Yes, but it's not easy, right? Grammar is difficult to teach, and grammar is difficult to learn. Okay. Oh, my student, it makes me crazy. Right, yes. Okay, so why so difficult? Why so boring? Why? Let's think about the reasons. Okay, is it the nature of grammar? Is grammar naturally a difficult thing? Maybe, right? Is it students' problem because students don't study, right? Is it their problem? Or is it teacher's problem? Okay, are we doing something wrong? Okay, is it our fault? Okay, or is it the teaching method? Or is it the teaching material that we are using? Okay, what makes grammar so difficult? Why so boring? Or maybe it's all of these. Maybe it's a mixture of all these reasons. Okay? today I want to focus on these two things, teaching method and teaching materials. Okay, so how did you learn grammar? Can you think back? When did you learn grammar? Maybe at primary school, middle school, high school, maybe at a private language school. Okay, when did you learn grammar? And how did you learn grammar? Now, can you think about now? How do you teach grammar? Or somebody learned grammar through movies. Oh, that's good. Okay, so let's think about how we teach, okay? And let's think about what we are using to teach grammar. In the context, yeah, very good. At high school, yes. From conversations, very good. So I see some good answers here. So today's topic. So I just did the introduction. Okay, number 2, grammar teaching methods. So we'll be looking at some grammar teaching methods today. Traditional methods and communicative methods. Okay, and we'll also talk about ESL and EFL. And number 3, grammar teaching materials. So we'll look at some traditional grammar books and some communicative grammar books. And we'll also talk about linear and spiral syllabus. And number 4, fun and easy grammar lessons. Okay, based on all these teaching methods, maybe we can talk about some ways that we can do grammar like more effective. And I'll give you some tips, and maybe I can show you some activities as well. Okay, but please remember that there's no right way or wrong way. Okay, I don't want to say that, oh, this is bad, this is good, right? I don't want to do that today. There's no right way or wrong way. And there's not only one way of teaching grammar. Okay, there are many different ways. And what you can do is, you know your students best. Okay, and everybody has different class. Everybody has different students, you know, their levels are different. The environment is different. So there's, you know, I'm not saying that there's only one way of teaching grammar. There are many ways, and you can choose the ones that you like. Okay? You can choose the ones that's most suitable for your situation. And there's no, like, I'm not saying that this is the best way to teach grammar, right? So please remember that there's no right way or wrong way. It's not like, you know, there's only one way of teaching grammar, and it's not like it's the best way to teach grammar. Okay, so maybe we can think about what we are doing now, and we can think about, you know, all these different ways of doing it, and maybe you can try some new things. Okay, you might have to continue doing what you're doing now. Okay, but, you know, it's always good to explore something new and something different. Okay, so grammar teaching methods. Number 1, grammar translation. Number 2, sentence diagram. Number 3, memorization. And number 4, repetition. So these are the traditional approach. Okay, and number 5 is communicative approach. Okay? And there are many more, right? But today I'll just focus on these 5 things. Let's look at grammar translation first. Okay, this is the traditional method. You translate from English to Vietnamese, your native language, and then explain grammar in your native language. And it's more or less teacher-centered because you are explaining the grammar. Students will be listening to you, and then they will do some activities, the exercises. So sometimes it's exam-focused, but this is probably the most popular way of teaching grammar, right? Is this how you teach grammar? I think most of you do this, right? I mean, I do that. It's probably the most popular way of teaching grammar. Number 2 is sentence diagram. Some teachers use a diagram, something like this, to show students the relationship, the grammatical relationship between the words. Okay, so let's look at this sentence. The happy woman danced across the street. Okay, so you can see where happy is, right? That's the adjective. And let's look at this one. The woman who looked happy danced across the street. Okay, so who looked happy? This is adjective clause. So you can analyze the sentence, okay, and then you can show the grammatical relationships between each words. Okay, so this is sentence diagram. But this one looks a little bit difficult, especially for younger students, right? For the beginners, this might look very complicated. Okay, do you use this method sometimes? Anyone? Not really? Okay, so it seems to be number 1, grammar translation is probably the most popular way. Or somebody learned this way, okay? Okay, good. Number 3, memorization. So you memorize the rules and memorize the example sentences. So yes, the level, yes. So of course we have to memorize the rules, right? Grammar is a lot of rules. So memorize the rules and memorize the example sentences. But it's often out of context, okay? You just take one sentence or you just take one grammar point out of context and ask your students to memorize. But it might be a little bit difficult because it's out of context. But memorization is necessary, right? When you teach grammar. Number 4, repetition. So you practice the forms again and again and again. But often it's very mechanical because you are doing something similar again and again and again. So it's mechanical and it's often out of context and no link between the grammar targets. Okay? But repetition might be necessary. You want your students to remember the grammar points, right? So you do a lot of repetition and a lot of memorization. Oh, audio-lingual method, yes, that's right. Yeah, a lot of repetition, right? Yes, that's, yeah, very similar. Another very traditional approach. Now let's look at communicative approach. So communicative approach is based on the idea that learning language successfully comes through having to communicate real meaning. Okay, having to communicate real meaning. So why do we learn language? We want to communicate. We want to use the language to communicate with other people, right? So communicative approach is based on this idea. So when you use communicative approach in a grammar lesson, you teach grammar in context and you do meaningful, communicative and fun activities. And you use the language, okay? You use the grammar points and connect to real life and personalize so that you can talk about yourself using the grammar structure. So this one is more student-centered. Okay, do you use this approach, communicative approach, in your grammar lesson? Sometimes it's not really easy to do this, okay? We tend to use traditional method, right? But maybe you can try a few communicative activities in your lesson after today's webinar, okay? And see if it helps with your students, right? Communicative approach is important because in our situation, in Korea and in Vietnam and in other EFL countries, students don't really have any opportunities to communicate in English, right? So it might be good to include some communicative activities, right? Even for your grammar classes. So let's talk a little bit about EFL and ESL. Do you know the difference between ESL and EFL? Yes? Okay, let's look at ESL first. So ESL, English as a second language. Okay, let's look at the example. A Vietnamese student learning English in USA. So a Vietnamese student goes to USA to study English, right? Then that student is in ESL environment because the dominant language in USA is English. English is everywhere, right? So you use English all day, every day, everywhere. You go shopping, you use English. You go to school, you learn, you use English, right? And English is everywhere. So that's ESL environment. Now let's look at EFL. EFL is English as a foreign language. So in Vietnam, in Korea, in China, in Peru, in Colombia, we learn English as a foreign language. So let's look at the example. A Vietnamese student learning English in Vietnam. So in Vietnam, the dominant language is not English, it's Vietnamese, right? Everybody speaks Vietnamese. And probably only in the classroom, students will use English during English class, right? So there's a big difference, yes, big difference between ESL and EFL. So we have to understand this difference. Okay? It's totally different environment. Okay? How many classes do Vietnamese students usually have? Do they study English like for primary? Do they study English once a week, twice a week, or 3 times a week? In Korea, usually in primary school, 2 or 3 classes per week. Okay, so only 2 or 3 classes per week of English. Right? It's not enough. Right? So their exposure to English is so limited. There's no chance. Right? They don't have any opportunities to really communicate in English. So limited exposure, different environment. So you might need different approach. Okay, so in EFL environment, you probably need to do more link. Okay, link something that you learned before with something that you learned today. You make link and review, right? So that student can remember. And you probably have to do more practice because you only have 2 or 3 classes per week, right? And you have to recycle, right? So you have to do more of these things for EFL environment. Okay, so now we understand the difference between ESL and EFL, right? So today I will talk about grammar lessons in EFL environment. Okay. What do I mean by recycle? Recycle means you learn something new, right? And then you recycle that so that you can use it again. Like for example, if you learn past tense, right? And then you use that again and again and again. If you learn a new word, right? Let's say you learn a new word, foreign language, and you use that word again and again and again. Okay? So I'll talk more about that later. Okay? So we've looked at different grammar teaching methods, right? We've looked at some traditional methods and we looked at the communicative method, right? We'll actually look at the examples later, okay? But for now, let's look at grammar teaching materials. So let's look at some traditional grammar books. Okay, so you can see the pictures here, right? Traditional books look like this. It's got a lot of information and maybe a lot of explanation and a lot of exercises. But usually not many pictures. You can see only one picture here. And context, sometimes they provide context, sometimes they don't. Okay, so a lot of us use grammar books like this, especially for higher level, right? All the grammar books for higher level look something like this. Okay, do you use something like this for grammar? Yes, yeah, I'm sure many of you use this, this kind of books. This is very traditional grammar books. Yes, 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 yeah, I see a lot of yes. Okay. This one is more communicative, right? This is communicative grammar book. So reduced explanation, right? You don't see much explanation here, right? But you see a lot of activities. And you can see some games as well. Lots of pictures, right? So it looks more interesting, especially for young children. And usually they provide context. Okay, so there's a big difference, right, between the traditional grammar book and the communicative grammar book. And also the syllabus they use in those two different grammar books are different. So let's look at the syllabus. Linear syllabus and spiral syllabus. Okay, you are probably very familiar with linear syllabus. Linear is just one line, right? That's linear. So if you look at this Unit 1, nouns. Unit 2, pronouns. Unit 3, adjectives. Unit 4, verbs. This is a usual progress of a grammar book, right? Do you use a book like this? They have like each unit, they have different grammar targets, okay? And it's very linear, yes. But if you look at this one, the spiral syllabus, Unit 1, nouns. Unit 2, the new target is pronouns, right? But you also review nouns here. And you link together and practice together and review. And if you look at Unit 3, the new target is adjectives. But you do nouns again. And you also do pronouns. Okay? And you make a link and you practice together. If you look at Unit 4, the new target is verbs, right? But then you also do nouns, pronouns, and adjectives. So you do all these things from previous units. Okay, so you make link, you review together, practice together. Okay, so this is spiral syllabus. Right? Spiral is, you know what spiral is, right? It goes around and around and around. So you learn something, you make extension, okay, you review and you learn new thing, and it goes on and on and on. So that's the spiral syllabus. Okay, is this something new to you, spiral syllabus? Have you heard about spiral syllabus before? Maybe it's something new to you. Okay, we are very familiar with linear syllabus, but there is a syllabus called spiral syllabus. Not yet. Yeah, okay. So what will be the good thing if you follow spiral syllabus? What will be the benefit of using spiral syllabus? You do a lot of review, and you do a lot of linking, and you do a lot of recycling. Yes, repetition, review, connection. That's right. So students will remember. Okay, they can remember. If you use linear syllabus, right, this is the way we learn grammar, and this is the way, we teach grammar. So think back. Okay, when you are learning grammar using this linear syllabus, okay, when you are doing unit 1, you study very hard, right? You learn and you do all the exercises, you study very hard, right? When you move on to unit 2, right, you do all these exercises in pronouns, right? But what happens? You forget the nouns, right? And when you move on to unit 3, you study very hard on adjectives, right? But what happens to pronouns and nouns? Because there's no connection, right? You just forget. It's very hard to remember. Okay, so if you follow spiral syllabus, students, it helps students remember. Okay, because it keeps coming back, right? So now you know the difference between the linear syllabus and the spiral syllabus, right? So let's look at the linear syllabus again. So here, I explained this already, but let's look at the example. So nouns, pronouns, and adjective, right? So there's no link. There's no link. Okay, so that makes it difficult. Yes, spiral. That's right. Okay. So why spiral syllabus? Repeats and reviews target grammar points throughout the lessons. Okay, repeats and reviews. Old targets are reviewed and expanded and linked with new targets. Reviewed, expanded, and linked. Help students easily consolidate and expand their knowledge of grammar. Okay, helps your student remember and expand. Right. So this is an example of the spiral syllabus. So if you look at this one, here's nouns and pronouns, right? So you learn nouns and pronouns. And then you do nouns again, right? But here, not only you're reviewing the previous part, you are also expanding. So here, nouns, pronouns, and if you look here, singular and plural nouns, count and non-count nouns, on, plus noun, there, be, noun. Okay, so it's expanded, reviewed and expanded. If you look at this one, we have pronouns and nouns again, right? So you do pronouns, nouns and articles, some, any plus noun. Okay, so you can see that there is a review, link, and expansion. Okay, so you understand the difference, linear syllabus and spiral syllabus? Not only new targets, across the books, but new targets, reviewed, extended, the old targets. Okay, so here, in book 3, book 1, 2 targets, reviewed and extended, and also do new targets. Okay. So let's do a quick review, right? Review is important. So let's review what we've done so far. So we talked about grammar teaching methods. Okay, we looked at some traditional methods, and we also looked at the communicative method. And we compared ESL environment with EFL environment, right? And then we talked about grammar teaching materials. We looked at the traditional grammar book, and we looked at the communicative grammar book. And we also talked about linear syllabus and spiral syllabus. Okay, are you all clear? Understand? Now let's move on to fun and easy grammar lessons. And I'll give you some tips, and maybe we can do some activities. Okay? Okay, that's good. If you have any questions, you can leave the questions on Q&A box, or you can leave the questions in the chat box so I can have a look at it later. And then maybe I can answer the questions at the end of the session. Right, so how can we make it fun and easy? That's the big question for today, right? How can we make our grammar lessons fun and easy? Look at this student. He still needs help. Okay. So is there anything we can improve? Is there anything we can try? Okay. Sometimes, trying new things, it's not so easy. We have a curriculum to follow, and we have a book that we have to use. Okay. And our situation is different. You have different levels of students. So sometimes it's not easy to try new things. Right? You cannot change everything completely. Right? But, maybe you can try some activities when you teach today. Do you teach today or tomorrow? Okay, so be flexible and be adaptive. Okay, you know your students best. You know what works and you know what doesn't work. Okay, so because you are the teacher. But today I'll give you a chance to be a student. Okay, let's look at this picture. So look at this teacher. Teacher has many different hats. Okay, teacher wears many different hats. Mentor, coach, nurse, referee, therapist, parent, right? We have all these different hats, right? So many. Zookeeper, yes, I know. Why zookeeper? Yes. So I'll give you a new hat today, right? You can be a student. Okay, so let's look at the things from students' point of view today. Okay, are you happy about that? Do you want to be a student just for this webinar? Okay, you can go back to your childhood. You can be 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old. Okay, you can be a child again. Okay, now let's look at this student. This student will keep appearing. Okay, you'll see him very often. So here he says help. I don't understand. Okay, now let's look at this. Do you want to read this? Now remember, you are a student. Okay, you are 10 years old. Okay, when you look at this page in the book, do you want to read this? Can you read? Do you understand? Remember, you are 10 or 9 years old. Okay. Yes, it's very complicated for young students, right? Yeah, you don't want to read, right? I don't want to read, teacher. I don't understand. Your students will say this. Yes, but let's read it together. Okay, we'll read it together. Now you can read like your student. So have, has, that's the topic. That's the grammar target for today. So let's read this together, everyone. Ready? Go. Have is the root verb and is generally used alongside the pronouns I, you, we, and they, and plural nouns. In general, have is a present tense word. Has is used alongside the pronouns he, she, it, and singular nouns. In general, has is a present tense word. Phew. Very long, difficult, right? And you don't really want to read this. And even though you read this, you don't understand, right? Boring, yes. Now let's look at this page. Remember, you are a student, right? You're a 9-year-old. You look at this page, how do you feel? It's much simpler. It's easier. It's very clear, isn't it? Yes, much better. Same topic, have, has. That's the grammar target for today. Okay, let's look at the chart. Have, has. Okay, so when do you use have? I, we, you, they. Have a cookie. Okay, easy. Oh, but for has, it's different, right? You can compare the difference. Have, has. So when do you use has? She, he, it has a cookie. Okay, so without much explanation, you can see that. You can see the difference, right? You can see when to use have and when to use has just by looking at this chart. Okay, and look at this sentence. The ants have a cookie. The ant has a cookie. Oh, have, has. It's different. The ants, right? There's S, so that's more than one ant. It's plural, and you use have. The ant, that's one ant, right? So you use has, singular, right? So you don't have to explain much. Look at the chart and have students compare and find out the difference. Right? They can figure out. It's very simple and very clear. Right? So this is student-centered. You don't have to explain like this. Remember the previous slide? This one, you don't have to do all this explanation. You don't have to read all this. Just show this and have your students figure out the rule. Okay, student-centered. And let's look at this one. Let's look at another example. Remember this student, right? He still says help. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense, right? Let's look at the sentence. We have hot dogs. What hot dogs? We don't have hot dogs, right? Doesn't make any sense. I have sandwiches. Do we have sandwiches? I don't have any sandwiches. Doesn't make any sense, right? Let's look at this one. Let's look at these two girls in the picture. Okay, we have hot dogs. Ah, now we know. Now we understand, right? We have hot dogs. The girl has hot dogs here, right? Can you see the hot dogs, right? And let's look at this one. Let's look at this girl. I have sandwiches. Ah, now I understand, right? She had sandwiches. Okay, now let's compare this with this. Okay, sorry. Here we have hot dogs. I have sandwiches. There's no context. But if you provide context, then it's easier to understand. Okay, so provide the context. You can talk about the pictures. Okay, oops, sorry. So let's talk about the pictures here. Let's look at number one, boy. Okay, what does he have? He has bananas. How many bananas? 1, 2, 3. He has 3 bananas. Okay. Now look at the sentence. Number one, he has bananas. Okay, you've got the sentence, you've got the picture clue, you've got the context. Okay. Let's look at number two. Number two, what is it? It's a monkey. Okay. What does the monkey have? It has a plate. Number two, it has a plate. Okay. So what are they doing? What are they doing? They are having a picnic, right? Where are they? They are at a park, maybe. Okay. So what else can you see in the picture? Can you see the melons? Can you see the trees? Yes. So you can talk about the pictures, right? You can provide context. And it's much more interesting, isn't it? And you can understand what's going on. So provide context. That's tip number 2. Right. Now look at the student again. He says, it's boring. He needs help. Okay. Look at this page. A lot of exercises, right? And look at the grammar explanation. Looks very difficult. I don't want to do this. Why do I have to do this? It's not interesting. It's boring. Teacher, you know, your students will say this. Do you feel the same way? Remember, you are a child, right? So let's compare that with this. How can you make it more interesting? You can connect to real life. Okay, let's look at number one. Look at the rabbit, isn't it cute? As soon as your students look at this picture, yeah, they'll be interested. They want to find out more about this rabbit. A rabbit can jump. It can jump. Right? Then you can introduce the target. Now let's look at number 5. You can see lots of children there, right? So students can identify with these children. It's their age, right? Children are running and they look very excited, right? The children can run. They can run. Let's look at number 6. Oh, what a cute baby. It's interesting just by looking at the pictures. The baby can't run. He can't run. So you can compare these two. So there are many things you can talk about. It's interesting. You make connection to real life. Okay, so compare this with this, right? It's a big difference. Right, now let's move on to the next situation. Look at this student. It's not related to me. That's why it's boring. It's not related to me. Why do I have to learn this? Let's look at this exercise. Fill in the blanks with have or has. Number 1, I blank a new bike. We have a picture here, right? So it's not that we don't have any context. So you can write have, I have a new bike. But I don't have a new bike, right? It's not related to me. I don't have a bike. Number 2, we blank 6 pencils. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here are 6 pencils. But do we have 6 pencils? I don't have any pencils here. I only have 1 pen, right? So it's not really meaningful to me, this sentence. Do you have 6 pencils? Probably not. I don't know. Why don't we personalize it? Okay, we can do personalization activity. So let's look at this activity. What do you have? Circle and write have or don't have. Now let's look at the pictures first. Hiking boots, sleeping bag, backpack, and a hat, and a tent. Okay, so students can look at this picture and they can talk about themselves. I have boots, right? They can write have if they have boots. Number 2, if they don't have any boots, they write I don't have boots, right? It's about themselves. It's a meaningful sentence. It's a true sentence, right? Number 2, I have a sleeping bag. I don't have a sleeping bag. I don't have a sleeping bag, so I'll just write I don't have. Okay. Number 3, I backpack. I have a backpack, so I can write I have. I have a backpack. Number 4, I have a hat. Number 5, tent. I don't have a tent. I don't have a tent. Okay. Yes, this is, someone asked me, what if the students haven't learned the negative of have? Yeah, this is just an example, right? I'm not going through the actual unit. I just pick some examples, okay? So before you do this, of course, you have to teach the negative form of have. You have to teach don't have, right? So this is just an example to show you the personalization activity, okay? So if you go back to the slide, okay, if the exercise questions are not related to the students, you can make it related to themselves, right? By doing personalization activity. Okay. Yes, suppose that they know the rules, right? They just learn the rules, and then this is the practice part. So now let's move on to this. It's too repetitive, too mechanical. Okay, if you look at the activities, let's look at number 1. There is here, here's the bell. This is an example, so you can circle here's. Right? Number 2, I smells the ocean. So which one? I, so you circle smell. I smell the ocean. Number 3, we sees the teacher. We sees the teacher. So which one? See. So you circle see. Okay. But if you do this kind of activity too many times, do you know what students do? They don't even read the sentence. They'll just look at the subject and then they just circle one of the verbs without reading the sentence. So if they look at number 4, they'll just do this. It weighs. Number 5, you take. Number 6, my mother sends. That's what some students will do, right? They don't read all these things because they don't have to, right? They don't have to read the whole sentence to complete this activity, right? Because it's very repetitive, it's very mechanical. They just do it mechanically without paying attention to the meaning, right? Sometimes you have to do mechanical activities, right? You have to do repetitive exercises, right? They are useful because they have to practice the forms, right? But if you do this all the time, then it gets boring, right? Because they don't pay attention to the meaning. It's meaningless. They just do the mechanical activities. So what can you do? Make it meaningful. Right? You can make the activities meaningful. So let's look at some activities here. Circle and check yes or no. Number 1, the ant has 6 legs. Okay, the ant. So there's only one ant. So you circle has. Right? The ant has 6 legs. Yes or no? Is the sentence true? Is this a true sentence? Yes, the ant had 6 legs. Yes, right? So you have to read the whole sentence in order to do this part, right? You have to think about the meaning. Now let's look at number 2. Elephants has small ears. Elephants, that's more than one. So you circle have. Right? Elephants have small ears. Yes or no? Think about the meaning. Elephants have small ears. Let's look at this picture here, right? We have 2 elephants here, mommy elephant and the baby elephant, right? Do they have small ears or big ears? They have big ears, right? So you can check no. Okay. Should we try one more? Let's try number 3. Chickens has big wings. Chickens. So there's S, right? More than one. So you circle have. Chickens have big wings. Do they have big wings? Yes or no? Let's look at this picture. I think they have big wings. Look at this wing, right? If they open the wings, I think they're quite big. So you check yes. Okay, just by adding yes or no to the end of this activity, students will have to read the whole sentence and then they'll have to think about the meaning, right? And then they can complete this activity, right? So it's not only about finding the correct form. It's also about the meaning. And also, if you understand the meaning, it's interesting, right? You talk about the ant, you talk about the elephants, you talk about the gorilla. Right? It's much more interesting when you know the meaning of the sentence. And interesting pictures too, right? Now let's look at number 7 and 8. Okay, these two are very interesting. Number 7, I have has a great smile. So you circle have. I have a great smile. This is a personalization question. Okay, I have a great smile. So students will think about their own smile. If they think they have great smile, then they'll check yes. If they think they don't have a great smile, then they'll check no. Okay, so how about you? Do you have a great smile? If yes, then check yes. How about me? Do I have a great smile? If yes, yes. If no, check no. Okay, yes, thank you. Number 8, we has a good class. So we can use have. We have a good class. Yes or no? Are we having a good class now? Are we having a good webinar? Yes. Okay, I see a lot of yes. Okay, so very good. So we are having a good class. Okay, so this is a personalization. So the sentence become meaningful for the students. Right? It's not only the grammar points, but also the meaning. Right? That makes it different. Right? Okay, very good. Now, make it communicative. Now, can you look at my bag? That's my bag. Okay, what do I have in my bag? I have a book, I have a pencil, I have a notebook. Okay, so you can actually show your bag to your students and you can go through the things you have in your bag and you can say together with your students, right? I have a book, I have a pencil, I have a notebook. Okay, and then student can probably ask you, right? What do you have in your bag? I can ask your students, right? What do you have in your bag? So it becomes communicative. What does he have in his bag? So now we practice the I have, right? So if you want to practice he has or she has, right? You can use your student's bag or you can use a toy or something, right? So I have, can you look at this? We'll have to get this. I have a special friend today, right? This is Chip, okay? And I have Chip's bag here. Okay, so let's find out what Chip has in his bag. Okay? Yes, your work. Yeah, that's right. So here, Chip has an apple, right? He has an apple. Oh, sorry, orange, right? And apple as well, right? So Chip has an orange, Chip has an apple, and Chip has bananas. Okay? And Chip has juice. And he has some bread. Okay, I think Chip is going to have a picnic. I think Chip's going to a park to have picnic, right? He's got all these things. Okay, so he has, or she has, she has. So you can practice that, right? So it's good to use real objects, then it becomes more interesting. Okay, if you don't have the real objects, you can use flashcards. Okay, so I have bananas. I have oranges. Okay, so you can use the flashcards as well to make your grammar lesson more interesting. Okay? Now let's play a little game. Okay, it's called Chip's Mystery Bag. Okay, so Chip has, remember all the things that Chip has, right? An orange, an apple, bananas, bread, and juice. Okay? But these things are too heavy. So Chip doesn't want to carry all these. Right? He just wants to carry one item. Okay? So here, there's only one item here. Okay? What do you think Chip has? Okay, can you make a sentence? He has, okay? So what do you think he has in the bag? Any answers? He has a ball. Oh, no, sorry, he doesn't have a ball. He has an apple. No, sorry. He has an orange. No, sorry. He has bread. No, sorry. He has bananas. Oh, he has a durian. No, sorry, no durian. No, sorry. He has bananas. Right? Chip likes bananas. He has a bag. Yes, he has a bag. Yeah, that's right, right? That's good. Okay, so you know, it's a fun game that you can do, right? And you practice a lot. Right? This is a lot of repetition, but you don't. Your students don't realize that they're practicing. Right? They will keep saying he has, she has, I have. Right? It's a lot of repetition, but they don't feel that this is a mechanical activity. Right? It's a fun game. And you can also do a presentation. Okay, you can ask your students to draw what they have in their bag, and then they can do a presentation. Right? I have a book, I have a pencil, I have an eraser. Okay, so it's a good practice, and it's personalization because you are talking about your own things, right? And also it's communicative. The meaning is very important, right? It's a true sentence. Okay? Good. Now let's move on to this. Too many exercises. Help. Right? How do you feel when you look at this page? Do you want to do all these exercises? Not really, right? No. So let's make it fun. So let's look at this. Roll and write have or has. Okay, so you need dice for this activity. It's a worksheet, right? It's just like this page, but you can turn that into a more fun activity. So here, so if you get 1, 3, 5, then you have to use have. If you get 2, 4, 6, then you have to use has. Okay, understand the game? Right? Now, let's look at this number 1. I blank a square watch. Okay, so have or has. I have a square watch, right? The correct answer is have. But we have to play a game before you can write have. Okay, so I have a dice here. So let's roll the dice. I get 6. Okay, 6 is has. I has a square watch. No, it's not a correct sentence, right? Then you lose a turn, right? And another person will have to do it. Okay, so let's ask Chip to roll the dice. Okay. Okay, now 1. Okay, if it's 1, oops, sorry, if it's 1, then you use have. I have a square watch. Is it a correct sentence? Yes, it's a correct sentence. So Chip gets 1 point. Okay, well done, Chip. So you keep playing like that. Yeah, it's really fun, okay? And it's a lot of practice. So make it fun. That's another tip. Now let's move on. So this student, look at this poor student. He says, help. I don't remember. I don't remember. Do you hear that from your students? Teacher, I forgot. I don't know. I don't remember, right? They always say that. So Lincoln Review. Lincoln Review helps students recycle, reuse, and retain the grammar points. Check their understanding of the target grammar points. Okay, so look at this page, Lincoln Review. Okay, and if you look at these lessons, lesson 8, lesson 9, lesson 10, lesson 11, lesson 12, lesson 13, and lesson 14. So grammar targets from all these different lessons are practiced together here. It's a cumulative review. Okay, so here you can practice the targets. You can link and review the targets from all these previous units. So if you are doing, while your students are doing this activity, this exercise, if they have problem with number 4, okay, your book is blank the desk. So the answer is your book is on the desk. Okay, this is about preposition, right? But if they have problem with this question number 4, then you can look. Question 4 is from lesson 11. So you can go back to lesson 11 and do some review and come back to this activity. Okay, so there is a reference chart. Okay, so this is a grammar book from eFuture. This is my first grammar. And we have a special section like this, Lincoln Review. Okay, and we provide the reference chart for the teachers. Okay, so teachers know what students understand and what they need to do review. So if they have a wrong answer for question number 10, okay, you check, okay, number 10 is from lesson 14, okay, then you can do the review on lesson 14. Okay, so this is a cumulative review. So it's always good to link the old targets with the new targets and practice together and then review. Okay, so very important. Then it will help your students remember. Lincoln Review. And Lincoln Review is the key element of the spiral syllabus. Okay, remember spiral syllabus? Yes? Okay, good. Now, let's do another review. Okay, for fun and easy grammar lessons, I have some teaching tips, right, for you. So make it simple, provide context, connect to real life, personalize, make it meaningful, make it communicative, make it fun, Lincoln Review. Okay, so maybe you can try some of these tips. Okay, we talked about ESL, EFL, and we talked about spiral syllabus. We also looked at the traditional approach and communicative approach. Okay, remember all this? Okay, very good. So do you still feel like this? I hope not. I hope you have some ideas for your fun and easy grammar lessons. Okay, so have fun in your grammar class. Think of grammar as something that can help you, like a friend. And think of grammar as something good, something positive, something that you can use to find your way. Okay, we have some activity videos and model lessons and webinar videos on our YouTube. So if you are interested in learning more about activities or model lessons, you can visit YouTube on our eFuture YouTube channel and keep in touch with eFuture. Okay, we have Facebook page as well. Okay, and thank you everyone. That's all for today. If you have any questions, you can leave the questions on the chat box or Q&A box. Okay, thank you. This was Mekong River. I did the boat tour 2 years ago and it was amazing. Okay, so thank you VS Tesol, thank you teachers, and thank you Mr. Kwok for organizing this. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
two. We will have, I think we have two questions in the Q&A box.
Okay, so I'll answer the questions. Does spiral syllabus apply to all levels? Yes, it applies to all levels. Okay, and can you share us a copy of your slide? Yes, I can share the slide. I'll send the slide to Mr. Kwok, right? So you'll be sharing this with other teachers?
Yes.
Yes? Yeah, okay.
Yes,
and can you share link books shown for me? Oh, so these are the books. If you look at the slide, my first grammar, book 1 to 3, right? I use the examples from this book, my first grammar. Okay. Personally, I love your presentation. Can I have your slide? Yeah. Yes, yes, yeah. So we will give you the slide. Okay, I'll send it to Mr. Kwok so he can share that with all the teachers. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, if you have more questions, please leave it in the Q&A box so that Sue can answer.
Okay, I'll try to answer all the questions. So yeah, send me the questions. Okay, leave them in Q&A box. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
VUS, your English, your future.